paralegal writing class.
Oh,
So it's part of a professional development series that we run. They have to attend a certain number. Yeah, so this is one of the options.
may I mention in my discussion with the others, the area of employment in the fields that are nonprofit, that are
Sure.
amazing, that it's never really on the top of the list.
Absolutely.
And the pay
Yeah.
scales have gone up and everything.
I love that. I mean, we're a career development office.
Oh.
Michael Student Services, but I'm in career development, so I love that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I-
And I will, it's gonna be, fairly informal
Oh,
as
good.
far as,
That's
yeah. Usually I do a lot of like, moderate panels and things, but for
Great.
this topic, I
Any
like,
questions?
yeah, I would rather you
Sure.
guys kind of tell your story.
Yeah.
Hopefully the students have questions. So I'll probably start that way. So open it up, let you introduce yourself.
I think begin with the beginning, but in law school, the old law school.
That would be great, yeah.
Future would look like back then in the days when John McCain was running president. That's how old I am.
Yeah. Maybe a better time in
Yeah.
many ways. Yeah, I love that. I would love just, kind of introduce yourself and start with that, and, hopefully they'll have questions, but that's what I'd like to do. I don't want it to be too kind of
Oh,
scheduled,
fabulous.
like we usually do, so.
Great.
And yeah, there's a little, goodie bag for you.
Lawyer too, or?
He's not.
Oh.
No, he's in sales.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
I always tell him and people, my first year at law school, my property professor said, don't marry a lawyer. And I took that advice seriously. And it's worked out well. We actually just had our first in October, so we have a 4-month-old.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Was the child
girl.
Girl born in Cleveland?
Yep.
Or? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
right at Metro.
Oh,
So
okay.
her
Yeah.
name's Vivian, and she's with my mom while I'm here, so
Yeah,
I'm lucky
oh.
that way.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah,
East side, west side?
we're in Shaker.
Oh,
yeah, east
Shaker.
side.
Graduate of Shaker, it's such.
Oh, you are?
1,000 years
Wonderful.
ago. Yeah.
Okay, so I grew up in Chesterland, so I went
Oh,
to West
yeah.
Geauga.
Oh, sure.
But we
That's
moved to
neat.
Shaker a lot for the schools, really.
Oh, really?
So,
Good.
yeah, and my husband is from North Ridgeville,
Oh.
so we figured it's a good kind of in the middle for both our
Sure.
parents,
Yeah, perhaps. Do you have an in-law suite, hopefully?
We
Somebody
do,
from-
we kind of do.
Yeah.
Our third floor, we're in an old, kind of tiny Shaker house, and our third floor is redone, and so we just made it a whole room for our
While I went to
parents.
law school, I lived in one of the old apartments in Shaker.
Okay.
Toland Road off of Loma.
I'm right on Winchell, right off of
Oh,
Lemont,
yeah.
so I'm like 2 streets away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
I
wonderful.
was there for 4 years, and
Okay.
from that point, after graduated law school, moved up a little. But,
And where are you
That-
now? Are you in Shaker now, or?
Well, I was in Pepper Pike for
Okay.
33 years.
Yeah.
I just moved.
Okay.
My late wife, who helped put me, she actually put me through law school. She
Oh,
passed away
wow.
10 years ago.
Oh,
So, I've been, a widower, whatever that is, for 10 years
Yeah.
now. So,
yeah.
but I just moved to the Hamptons
Okay.
apartment by Beechwood Place.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, how's that treating you?
It's nice, a
Yeah.
lot of young people there.
Yeah.
I think I'm one of the oldest there and all that, but,
Yeah.
it's,
That's great.
it's a
though.
great, I'm getting used to it.
Yeah.
I just moved last summer. so
Okay, oh, good for you.
It's
That's a nice
not-
area, for
yeah.
sure.
I'm gonna head up to Overflow, but first I'm gonna go to the pizza.
Okay.
Students are hungry, and
Oh,
I want to make sure
absolutely.
it's,
I
egalitarian.
guess I'm the first one here.
You
huh?
are, yes.
I
right
am
on
Harvey
time. I was gonna
Snyder.
say
Harvey, good to meet you. Mary Beth Moore. I work with Patty.
Oh, great. Is that in the career development?
That's right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
both do that.
He said he's gonna add a little bit about employment, and I said, we love that.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
From a
I
perspective.
really feel that what I'm gonna talk about, in my question and answers or discussion, there's a lot of employment opportunity that, from my perspective, I don't see the applications coming in, because, and the certainty of the amount of, shall we say, the salaries and perks are there.
Right.
For sort of like
just
nonprofits and
people
things like
actually
that.
need
Yeah.
to be interested in and
Yeah.
network and get really, yeah.
And the field that I practiced in, and I had always made a good living, was bankruptcy.
Okay.
Mm.
And I must tell you, that was never emphasized at Reserve
Yeah.
when I was here 1,000 years ago. But bankruptcy is steady employment.
Steady area, yeah.
Steady.
Interesting. And
Good.
sometimes it has some peaks too, right?
Oh,
It's
it had up
like
to 10 years
big,
ago?
right, to the
Oh, my
big,
God,
yeah.
I was around the clock.
Yeah.
It was, the honor.
Good to know. You'll be happy to hear we have an externship with the U.S. Office of Trustees.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so that's a good one
Oh,
for students interested.
terrific.
And Judge Harris is
Yeah.
part of our externship
Oh,
program too.
he's terrific.
Yeah,
He's
So
terrific.
those are two ways in.
Um,
And are you affiliated with the Adams Board?
I am, yeah.
So I worked at the Cuyahoga County Community Mental Health Board, my first job out of law school before they became part of the Adams Board.
Well, wait a minute. I was on that board.
Yeah, so I was under,
Bill Dent.
Ella, then Bill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ella died.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she died, and that's when Bill, she,
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear
yeah,
that.
but Bill was terrific. I mean,
Yeah.
they took a chance when they,
Right, because he was more government. sector, I
Absolutely.
mean, straight government,
but
not
it turned
law
out to
or-
be an
or
excellent
health.
choice. Yeah, I was,
You know, now you're very familiar, Harvey, of
Yeah.
course, yeah, and
Right.
Benita was on the
yeah,
board with
right,
you.
right,
Oh, that's so fascinating.
yeah.
That was very short, lived for me. I went to Nuremberg, Paris next.
Oh,
And so
okay.
it was so short that it's on my resume, but it just wasn't long enough,
No.
Yeah, so thanks for
Yeah,
doing this.
good to see you too.
I'm a
Good
little
time.
terrified about the pizza. being
Okay, you grab the pizza.
Yeah.
I may wander
Oh,
with
that's
Michael.
fine now.
Yeah, just have a seat, get comfy. I'll probably sit up here with you all, so you can
Oh.
have any one of these seats and kind of look through your goodie bag. Yeah. I'm gonna wander down. You can guard the pizza for sure. Yeah.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Testing 1 2. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. Testing 1 2. Test 1 2. Testing 1 2.
I got a ton of pens.
Ton of pens. Test 1 2. Testing 1 2. Test 1 2. Testing 1 2. Test 1 2.
Heather, hi, Harvey Snyder. Well, good to meet you too. From the Committee on the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar, is that?
Well, I keep trying to be on the committee.
Oh.
Well, I'm on it, but every time there's been a meeting,
Oh.
I've been out of town.
Yeah.
So I travel quite a bit. I'm
Really?
the director of professional development for Tucker Ellis.
Oh.
And so I go to all of our offices
Sure, you
quarterly.
gotta-
So between that and we just had our partner meeting last week.
Oh,
and so
my gosh.
I'm almost always out of town. So I've missed it, I think I just started January, so I've missed 2 months. So, but I'm trying, because it is so important.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, for you.
Over the decades, I can't.
We have one. Yeah, we have an interview.
Myself, maybe 3 other lawyers. Over the decades.
Yeah, let me grab one. I got a dog at home, so I get it. Yeah.
How many partners?
Oh my goodness. We're just getting black now. That's it. That's it. And did you park in Cleveland? I actually.
Right.
And I could talk.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, you're fine.
Park down here right now.
No, right.
Firms to realize it's a lint roller, big deal.
Let me grab your lint roller, and can I grab your parking ticket?
Oh, sure.
And then I'll validate it for you.
Oh,
And yeah, so I was just kind of chatting with them. Okay, perfect. There you go. That, it's definitely going to be more of a sort of an informal,
Okay.
kind of telling your story and really kind of getting the.
We're giving up watching the Michael Cohen testimony.
Oh, yeah, I was watching my dad
Right.
send me a text message.
We should maybe just
playing,
live stream
yeah.
that.
You're right.
Or maybe.
That's not like the ethics one.
Yeah, right. Or maybe the, well-being is not always the focus of that, right? Maybe don't watch it. It's better for your mental health.
There's International Day of Happiness is March 20th, and one of the suggestions that they have to celebrate is no social media, like a blackout day,
Yes.
negative information and news.
I love that idea.
Like, all right,
Yes.
right.
All right, perfect. Well, let me go validate these, get a lint roller. We've got one more panelist joining us, so we'll
So
get.
there's another overflow room upstairs too.
Yeah, let's grab it. Let's do it.
You are awesome.
Yeah.
No, it is one thing that I give a
Oh.
lot of credit is that they take this stuff seriously.
Yeah, they're taking this seriously. Ooh. Wow.
And there's free pizza.
Oh.
So are you still practicing or?
I retired almost 5 years ago.
Okay,
I was in the
congratulations.
bankruptcy field.
Okay.
And that's an area that I would recommend. I'll talk, I mean,
Yeah.
mention that.
Yep.
It's 9 to 5.
Yeah, you don't have
You go,
bankruptcy
and
emergency.
you're in court, you've got to know your federal law, your procedural, but let me tell you, you don't take it home with you like you do anything else. Bankruptcy is really office.
Yeah. It's like being a podiatrist, right?
There you go. There you
You're
go.
going in the medical field, you want something where there's schedule
Yeah.
and not a lot of emergencies.
That's an area I'm working on for our board that I'm on, is podiatry, to get that covered for mental health and disabled people
Interesting.
coverage. I'm working on that now. Do you
What's
know
the
any
board?
podiatry? I'm on
I don't.
the
The Adams board?
Yeah, the
Okay.
Adams board.
So I was a construction attorney at Thompson Hine for several years.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
so we worked on your facility, Steve Zanoni.
Yes.
I think it was
Was
the,
that
yeah.
Applebaum?
Applebaum, yeah.
Yeah,
He was
oh,
my,
yeah,
he was
he-
the partner that I kind of worked on.
Yeah, he did a terrific job. Ultimately, we rented because he just
Yeah.
didn't, but he did a terrific job.
Yeah,
Oh, so I was probably on the board when you.
Yeah, probably. So,
Oh, right.
yeah. So back in the day,
Well,
I
thank you
practiced.
for all your
Yeah.
hard work and services.
Yeah, I practiced for about 12 years, and then about 2 years ago made the change to professional development because
Good for you.
well, I miss practicing. I don't miss all of the other stuff that went with it. And when you're in construction law, I wrote contracts for those types of projects, and then once the project was over, no one cared about.
You walked on.
I walked on, and so this I have a little bit longer term impact. So.
Do you miss? Is there any loss in what you've done to the camaraderie that you had when you would feed off others? And
It's definitely a lonelier position.
yeah, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so that's probably the biggest challenge that I have
Yeah.
so far. Not, you know, everybody's wonderful and I have
Oh,
great
no, I-
but like it's different being on the staff side.
Right, yeah,
So-
that's what I'm wondering.
Yep,
Well,
it's absolutely a little
thank
bit.
you.
Hi, I'm Karen.
A pleasure.
You.
Of course, anytime.
It was tough.
I'm actually going
back in
to,
the day, but-
I'm actually going to Akron tonight, with Olaf.
There was a art soccer.
No, I've been doing it with Olaf for about 2.5 years now, with Paul Caney.
All the stock issues are related, so yeah.
No, I was going to, but I got the flu. I got that terrible flu that's been going around,
He
so,
was yes, wonderful guy.
yeah.
Wonderful
Yeah,
personality.
yeah, I was going to, but then that morning I was like,
Well, would you ask?
You're my dad, yeah.
If there was an art
I
soccer.
will, I
He worked
will.
at
there needs to be like a medium, like something between cold and flu. Yeah.
Thank
Art
you.
Stockage, I'll
Yeah,
ask him,
and
yeah.
tell him that somebody who worked with him
I will,
as a youngster.
Yeah.
Because he, what a guy. Oh, gee.
Oh, goodness. That's so nice
I'm
meeting you.
touching
I'm
you
like, so
because
nice to meet you.
it brings back the memories. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, how are you? Good to see you too. Good.
What?
No, I'm fine. That's good.
We should do a square, black cap.
You know, I use your the pens.
Are they all
They're
yours?
all like
Okay.
these guys. I love these
Combined?
pens.
I
Oh,
will tell everybody, if you wanna,
We put them all into one spare room.
This has crisis text hotline.
Fine together,
It-
they just, we fed
Yeah,
them
you never know. I mean, and
bribe the
our,
children with food.
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, pets are good for mental health though, so. you
That's
know.
true. That's very true.
So I didn't
Yeah.
realize
Go.
exactly.
Okay. Great.
Yeah, and so it's right, just a discussion. A lot of these tend to be where I will like moderate, you know, and I will be doing that essentially, but it's going to be more informal, sort of like just sort of telling their story.
Gotcha.
We really want to just kind of
Now, how long have you been on the Adams board?
mental health.
Well, when we merged, which was 8 years ago,
Right.
I've been on since then, and
Well, that's basically
before
what I
that
did
on the
till
mental
last,
health
so.
board.
Okay.
Exactly. So you
But
talk
as you
right
hear,
about your
I-
experience, what
I
you do
was-
every day.
Yep.
Very active. Have you ever heard of NAMI?
Yeah, that's what that's.
National Alliance on
Oh,
Mental
yes,
Illness?
yes, yes.
I was very active here locally and
Okay.
president of the Ohio Local State,
Oh, okay.
NAMI Ohio. And
We have a, or actually she's not working with us
I
anymore,
completely
but an
understand
attorney
that.
in St. Louis who was in the local
Oh,
NAMI board.
yeah.
So
It's, that was one of the best things I ever did.
He even says, like,
yeah.
It
they're
was.
not paying attention to me. I'm,
Right.
you know,
If any of your
25, 30 years older than half of
professor,
them, so they're not gonna look at me.
you're so
Yeah.
young. If any of the partners or individuals
Yeah.
need a support,
Right.
that's.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it, and to be comfortable.
Yeah, that's wonderful organization.
Allison, she does a lot of right. So being able to know who kind of you are.
Right,
Is
exactly,
the
right.
person. If you're not, are you going out?
You know, are these first year lawsuits or?
I don't
you
know.
Okay.
I have no clue.
Right. So things like that. Yeah.
Right. And
Well, it could be, because she said they're creative writing, and isn't that?
Okay. Oh, they like the legal writing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and she said they're also
Definitely talk about that, because I think
they're
it's hard.
focusing, so I don't.
Okay.
You know, I don't.
Yeah, I'm guessing
But I
they're probably a
imagine
first
it's
year
open to
program.
everybody.
I could be,
Right, right.
but, yeah, that's one of the other things we're trying to push is wellness groups within the law. Kind of headed off before become lawyers. There's so many resources for lawyers that even law students don't know that OLAP could be to them too. I did.
Oh, wow, I like it. That's great.
I would definitely talk about that. I think he was a founding member.
Pass it around
okay.
the room.
So he's probably
Yeah.
not-
They like that,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It is important to take a break.
Oh.
We actually just had a
Yeah,
presentation
it's good.
yesterday on TechNet.
Oh, yeah,
Oh.
my mom.
Where like how people are all hunched over and how
right.
they kind of like different yoga
Get
moves
the
you can
round
do.
You're ripping off the
Look,
things.
that's it.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, excellent. Like I said, I
Well, I'm a Neanderthal. I'm
Okay.
I'm
very
not
much
building.
technologically challenged.
I always invite people.
My husband
might
would say
say
the same about me. I can usually get our TV to turn on, but not always.
Wow.
Are hopefully, hopefully. But my boyfriend's a case grad. He's not in law. He's not a lawyer, but he went to
Okay.
ESP here. So, yeah, he just had to show up and be like, I like seeing you talk.
All right.
Seriously.
So,
But yeah, so, well, I'm glad to be able to do anything. Like I said, if you guys need more people ever.
Go to law school?
Okay, that's awesome.
I study, I work, I have no life.
Yeah,
Oh.
I attended Gage.
Fair enough.
So, yeah.
Oh.
I was living out in. Hi, I'm Heather Bartsey.
Nice to meet you. Karen.
Very nice to meet you, Karen.
Harvey Snyder, Aaron. Very nice to know you.
Karen.
Karen, oh, sorry.
No,
Thank
that's all right. I respond to everything.
you. Oh, okay.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here too. Were you at the last thing that they did, the mental health thing, the last thing?
No, I wasn't. No.
Yeah, I was supposed to be here for that, and then I got the flu.
Oh no.
This time I'm like, oh, well, okay, at least I can leave my house now.
Give our last speaker a couple more minutes.
Okay, yeah.
This is a good turnout. I'm surprised.
Patty, how is it being back?
It's good. It's intense.
A little bit. I was thinking, like, just scheduling everything and
Yeah.
the logistics.
Yeah, I just had a baby in October, so I'm back, and I'm back part-time, and so you think
With-
like, oh, it's great, you know, but then some days you just think like, how do you just do everything, you know?
But you used to do full time. Now
Yeah.
they try to smushing it in.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and you can't, like, before I would just stay late or whatever, but now it's like, my parents watch Vivian when I'm home, when I'm here, so it's like, I gotta leave at 5, you know,
Yeah,
I gotta get there, so it's more of an exercise in like, how, you know, effective am I during the day? I gotta get it down to like,
Yeah, being super, super efficient.
yes,
Yeah.
you have to, so it's good, it's good, it's nice to come back and meet with students and do, you know, kind of be
Right. Out and about.
yeah, exactly. And then I have like Tuesdays and Fridays. I just have with her, which is really nice. too.
Okay.
Yeah, especially like it might change. I might end up going back full time at some point, but just 4 months. So
Oh, right. So
you know, yeah. Just a
Did you
little.
come back right as the classes started, or did you
The actual first day of classes. Wow. Which also probably didn't
like
help.
rolling in?
So it's like,
Yeah.
hello, everyone's back on deck.
Good to see you all again. Great.
Hi. Yeah. So that was intense. And spring semester is always for whatever reason just really busy. You know?
Now, are these all first years?
Yeah,
or-
most
okay.
will be
Okay.
first
Oh
years.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of their first year legal writing class.
Okay.
They have 3 of the 5 they have to do.
Okay.
So they can
Okay.
choose. We even have like overlap up there because it's just a big class, like 150.
Great.
that's actually really good because first year is when a lot of the time the mental health symptoms will set in because it's
stressful, right?
the most stressful. You're not eating, you're sleeping like crap. I talk about that in here. I'm like, you're at the age where it's supposed to set in, right? And on top of it, you've got stress and diet and sleep and exercise and it's easy to look and say like, oh well, I have bipolar disorder. It's easy to look at it and go, well, I'm producing all of this great work and I'm getting A's and staying up for 3 days and that's awesome. But that's not awesome because eventually everything hits bottom and then you can't do anything.
Right.
So
Right.
so it's actually I'm glad to know that they're mostly
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
may not be even aware of it.
Exactly, or know who to go to, and probably the same with your younger associates. You know, first year associates. I'm sure it's hard to just get used to things.
Well, and just even like it's the first time for a lot of them that they haven't been really good right out of the box at something. So just recognizing like it's okay.
Yeah.
Get there.
Yeah.
Is a big issue for them, I think.
All right, here we go.
Oh, there she is. I'm sorry, where do you practice?
So I'm not practicing anymore. I'm the director of professional development at Corral.
Oh, okay.
So I was at Thompson Hine for about 12 years, 11 and a half years, practicing construction law. And then about 2 years ago, I made the switch over to professional development. Yeah, so I work with mostly our associates, kind of our younger attorneys, and helping them
Learn how to do everything they didn't teach in law school.
Right, and a lot of it is kind of this, just professionalism, time management, and, communication skills, like stuff that you kind of know, but they don't really know. Yeah. The attorneys really do most of the skilled training. And then I'm more of the kind of general, good adult grown-up person with a job.
And I think a lot of new lawyers need that. New lawyers, unless they were like, I was a night school student, I had worked professionally in their actual work, but like, but I was go to see.
Right. Everyone else has fun. Right. You're kind of like
You get thrown into it all of a sudden.
Got this learning curve, so we have, we're not the smartest guys.
You don't have the experience.
Yeah, you have the experience. Good at being a student. Right. So,
nonetheless, still a good thing.
right? It's still a good thing.
I'm gonna wiggle in here.
Hello.
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you. All right, I'm just going to take a quick peek outside, see where we are on the line. I'm Heather Bartsey, by the way.
Danielle. Very nice to meet you as well.
There we go.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Severance. I know where that is. We looked for our wedding there. Like, hi. And I was like, on campus. I was like, I've literally never been on this campus before.
Yep.
Am I just now realizing this?
I took a lift from my house. It was $8. So I'm like, well, it's $8 well spent since I can't like walk around trying to find anything.
I couldn't believe I didn't realize the Cleveland Institute of, was it music that was next door?
Cleveland Institute of Art.
Art. And, like, it's got, like, I walked up and I was like, oh my god, there's like a big hole now.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome. I just want to make sure, have you guys all gotten an attendance sheet? Are those floating around? Okay, perfect. So great. So thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Patty Lopez, Director of Career Counseling and Professional Development. If you haven't met me yet or come to one of these events, this is also one of the wellness programs that we really put on with Michael McCarthy and Student Services. So this is sort of career development and student services focused for sure today. I know that you hear a lot from us about interviewing and cover letters and networking and all of those good skills. But today is really just as important, if not more important. We're going to be talking a lot about mental health and wellness. And it's going to be a little bit maybe more informal than my usual panels if you've been to those where I ask really specific questions and kind of guide the conversation. And I'm going to let our speakers today introduce themselves, tell their own stories, the importance of mental health and wellness, some resources, maybe you as 1Ls, also as you begin your careers as attorneys and how important this subject is. But I also really want to encourage you, and I know I do it every time, to say, really feel free to ask questions. And I know those of you who are in the overflow room, we will make sure that if you have questions, we'll try to get them down as well. And I will try to leave about 5 minutes or so at the end if you'd like to come down and chat with our folks here today on the panel. So again, I really encourage you to throw a hand up if you have questions. And we'll go ahead and get started. And I just want to thank you all so much for being here. This is such an important topic. And why don't we just start here on the end and just go ahead and introduce yourself, kind of your story, and we'll go from there.
Okay, guys, so if you can't hear me, let me know. My name is Karen Washington. I am a 2012 graduate of Cleveland Marshall Law School. I am not yet practicing law, and you'll learn why in just a second. But I have been giving lectures to law students and lawyers on mental health since about 2016, particularly with the Ohio Lawyers Assistance Program, and that's kind of one of the things I'm going to talk to you guys about. I'm not going to talk to you about the alcoholism portion of it. OLAP does a really good job of that, but we've just now starting to talk more about mental health. It's not something that was discussed when I was in law school. 2012 isn't that long ago, and it still wasn't really even discussed. My condensed version of this is I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2013, which is after I graduated law school. But I'd been suffering the effects of it since I was 19, and due to a number of really terrible doctors that I had seen, I was not diagnosed properly, so therefore I was not treated properly. I don't know if you know that much about bipolar disorder, but if you treat somebody with bipolar disorder with only antidepressants, they will swing into full-blown mania, which is usually how it's diagnosed. The problem is that I swung into mania, and my doctor really didn't seem to notice. So I suffered with this all through law school. I could work for 24, 36 hours without sleep. My first year of law school, I got straight A's. However, the second year of law school, I almost failed out because I had hit depression so badly that I could barely move out of my bed. I was self-medicating. I couldn't function. About my third year of law school, I should say, I came back to Marshall. I started working at a firm with my mother for a lawyer in Cleveland. He fired her, and because I was not medicated, because I was not treated, because I had not taken care of myself or found the resources to take care of myself, in my unmedicated, irrational, and angry state of mind, I reported this man to the Ohio Disciplinary Council for a totally, I'm just going to say it, BS reason, simply because he had fired my mother and I was mad. In my head, I rationalized it. When you're in a state of mania, you can rationalize anything to yourself. However, I also made the unbelievably stupid decision, and this is, keep in mind, 2012, to call him an array of very colorful names on Facebook. So you can imagine how this went. I filled out the application to take the bar exam, the character and fitness process. I know you guys are mostly first years, so you might not have gotten there yet, but you fill out this big stack of paperwork. They talk to all your employers, they talk to all your schools, they talk to, they do background checks on you. And of course, this man, when they sent him a form to fill out about my character and fitness, had not so nice things to say about me, which is completely understandable. They wrote me a nasty letter, the disciplinary council, again, justified. But in my reactive state of mind, I responded and basically told them, he's lying, you're full of crap. Needless to say, I was not permitted to take the bar exam when I graduated law school because I had to have a hearing in Columbus before the Board of Character and Fitness. And at that time, again, I was still not medicated. Looking back at the transcript, I read the transcript and I'm like, who is this person? Because after the hearing, when they determined that I had to wait till July 2016 to take the exam and basically told me, get yourself together, I did. I finally said to myself, not everybody can be wrong. Not all of these people can be wrong. Something is going on. So I got into a program. I got my diagnosis in May 2013, and their decision was the best thing that could have happened to me because I wouldn't have done that had I not gotten that decision. So it is now February 2019. Oh my God. I have been stable since about 2015. I was in OLAP for 3 years. I self-enrolled. I wanted some support for the mental health portion of my life. I couldn't drink during that time because that's a standard part of OLAP. Even though substance abuse wasn't necessarily my problem, it can contribute to ongoing mental health issues. And as lawyers, you know that substance abuse is one of the biggest problems in our profession. So now, being here on the medication that I take every single day, I go to therapy, probably had about 1,000 sessions at this point. I can tell you right now that I reapplied to take the bar exam, and I have been approved, and I am going to sit in July. So the thing that I want to impart to you before I turn it over to you guys is don't wait to get the help. Don't think that because you are able to produce at that kind of level, or because you feel too depressed and you're afraid that the bar isn't going to let you take the exam if you go get treatment. Don't let that stop you from getting the treatment, because I didn't get the treatment and I still wasn't allowed to take the exam. And I can tell you right now, they know I'm treated now. They know I have this illness. I went down and I told them all about it, and they approved me. And the reason they approved me is because they don't care if you have it. They care that you're taking care of it. They know that the bar examiners have come a long way in the past probably decade toward understanding these illnesses. If you treat it, if you can take responsibility for yourself, not only are you going to get to take the exam, you're going to feel so much better than you do while you're suffering with it. I didn't know what feeling healthy was like until I got the treatment that I got. So the one thing I'd like to encourage you guys to do is don't be afraid, because don't be afraid for your careers to get help for your life.
Hi, my name is Danielle Parker. I am a new attorney. I actually just passed the bar in November, graduated from Cleveland Marshall last year. And my story is kind of a little bit different, but the best way that I can probably describe it is in a set of parallels. So I'll start with one side of that parallel first. My mother will tell you that I was born at age 35 and just kind of kept going. I am a type A perfectionist with degrees in journalism and law, so I'm really good at correcting people and arguing. And I had really good grades, really loved talking to adults, really loved to read, studied abroad, was a cheerleader, was in a sorority, did the whole thing. So the flip side to that, I really liked talking to adults because kids my own age scared me when I was little. The first time I cried over a standardized test, I was in the first grade because I missed a question when they were reading the bubbles, and I was like, oh my God, like I can't miss one. Like, what are you talking about? The first person that said that I would be a perfectionist was my kindergarten teacher. So none of that really mattered. It was just kind of like, all right, like Danielle, that's fine. Like whatever, she's gonna do what she's gonna do. She's fine. My junior year of college, I was in a sorority, living with like 50 other girls, sharing a room with 3 of them. One of them was, frankly, like horrible. She's a horrible person, but that's okay. Not her fault. And I was like so unhappy. I was getting my first D ever. It was in economics, which is partially because it was econ, but partially because I could not like get out of bed and was like, what the hell is happening? So I went to mental health and wellness services on campus at my college, and it was kind of like, this is stupid, don't really know what I'm doing, like, might as well check it out. Sat in a room and cried for like 2 hours and was like apparently really upset about stuff that I like didn't even know about. So worked through all these things in my head, worked through with a therapist for a couple of weeks, and she was like, hey, I think you have social anxiety. Everything in my entire life made sense in that moment. Being afraid of peers, being afraid of talking about social things as opposed to academics, being afraid of people's impressions of me, and like started like relating this back into like all these different portions of my life that was like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. And it was really telling that I had spent like 21 years going through and having these feelings that I thought everybody was feeling whenever you walked into a room, walked into a party, met up with friends at a bar, realizing that other people weren't like, oh my God, I have to walk in someplace by myself and I need to make sure that I have at least 3 people to make eye contact with and 1 person to have a conversation with, otherwise I'm going to be standing there and I don't really know what's going to happen. So if I'm there for 5 minutes and nobody says hi to me, I'm going home. People don't do that. If that happens to you, come talk to me, because people don't do that. And so I say all this to say that I figured it out, went through 2 rounds of therapy and 1 round of medication, and that actually ended up being really helpful for me because I started figuring out that when I had the tools to start working on it, I was a much happier person. And so I give you that background because law school is really hard and law school is really scary. I moved up to Cleveland by myself. My sister was here, but she was doing her own thing. She was in school and she's younger than I am. And it was the first time that I felt like I had actually like hit a challenge in my life that was more difficult than anything that I had done, that I was actually prepared for. And it was terrifying. I wasn't as good at it as I thought I was going to be. My grades weren't as high as I thought they were going to be to begin with. But I was actually making connections with people. I was actually making friends. And I learned the true meaning of self-care. And it's not all pizza and face masks and girlfriends. It's get your butt to the gym, because if you sit here for another hour, you're going to drive yourself nuts. It's, do you need a nap because you're tired and exhausted, or are you actually trying to like revert back from what you're doing? Before my husband moved up here, you know, we would spend so much time on the phone just saying like, you know, where are you at mentally? How are you feeling? And when he moved up, he was like, you know, let me know what I can do for you. And those were all skills that had I not had that day in college where I decided, you know, like, I want to figure out what's going on with my mental health, I can tell you I don't think I would have passed the bar exam had I not made that decision when I was 20. Because all of those skills, I think, like genuinely got me through. And so now I try and spend a lot of time talking to peers and talking to friends and talking to other students about the nuances of mental health, because sometimes it's not a major breakdown. Sometimes it's, well, it's always been like this and it shouldn't be this scary. Why is it scary now? Because like I don't have severe anxiety. I have like mild to moderate social anxiety around people that I don't know sometimes. 3 years ago, I would not be doing this. This would be terrifying. So yeah, that's part of why that's why I'm here, because I think it's really important to kind of show that there's different levels of mental health, different levels of self-care, and plenty of options to figure it out.
Good morning. My name is Heather Bartsey. I'm the Director of Professional Development at Tucker Ellis, which is a law firm based here in Cleveland. We have about 220 attorneys in 7 offices: Cleveland, Chicago, St. Louis, Houston, San Francisco, LA. I don't know if I said them all, but I was a practicing attorney at Thompson Hine before going over to Tucker Ellis. I was practicing attorney for about 12 years. I was a partner for 2, and about 2 years ago I decided that I wanted to have a little bit more impact on the profession than I could have being a construction lawyer and writing construction contracts for big construction projects. So I was a 2005 graduate of CASE, and so every time I have an opportunity to help out CASE or give back to students, it's something that I think is really important. So I come at this from really a law firm perspective. And I can say that law firms are sitting up and taking notice. The American Bar Association did a study in 2016 of about 13,000 active attorneys. And the statistics that they found about alcohol, drug abuse, mental health issues was staggering. And so law firms, in-house counsel, the judiciary, everybody's waking up and realizing that these are issues that are really impacting our profession and making it so that we're not getting the best people in our profession because they're struggling with all of these issues. So the role that I have at Tucker Ellis as the Director of Professional Development is a role that most firms have. There's different versions of whether it's professional development, talent management, some aspect of the human resources department, but most firms do have some person who's really dedicated to making sure that the attorneys are getting the assistance that they need. And so the majority of my role is to help our young attorneys become better faster, and that's in all different aspects, whether it's helping them with time management, professionalism, communication skills, but also part of my role that I'm most proud of is that I'm a confidential resource for our young attorneys, and actually for anybody in the firm, but like I said, my role is mainly with our young attorneys, so they can talk to me about anything. I'm not a trained counselor, and so I do refer anybody who needs more specific counseling either to OLAP. Our health insurance has it's called the LAP program. It's Life Assistance Program, which is a confidential program where you can get counseling, or they have everything from like helping with childcare and figuring out childcare for people. So those are 2 of the main resources. But again, I'm a confidential person that people can talk to if they're struggling with a partner that they're working with and want to figure out how to handle that situation, or they keep missing deadlines and want to figure out some time management tricks to help them make sure that they're not missing deadlines. So I meet with all of our attorneys individually quarterly. So we have, it's about 80 attorneys meeting one-on-one quarterly. So it's a lot of what I do is making sure that people are getting the individualized assistance that they need. Like I said, some of it is mental health and wellness, but a lot of it is also just general, making sure that people can find the career that they want to have while they're working at our firm.
Good afternoon. Hi. My name is Harvey Snyder. I'm a graduate of The Ohio State University undergrad and here at Case Western Reserve University. I want to let you know I am a graduate from a long time ago, as you can see by the color of my hair. and a few of the wrinkles on my face. I graduated from here in 1961. The year I started was when President Eisenhower was the President of the United States, and it was a magnificent time to be a law student. You had only a wonderful future to look forward to. The booming economies of the 50s, post-World War II. I had just married. My wife was a teacher, helped put me through law school, but I could go through law school here at Reserve for a full year for $1,500. If I told you what the tuition was at Ohio State University per quarter, the tuition when I started the Ohio State University in the College of Arts and Science was $35 a quarter. The charge for the football tickets to see the famous Buckeyes play was more than the tuition to go to Ohio State. And it was cheaper for my parents to send me from Shaker Heights High School down to Columbus than it was to go right here at Reserve. I made it through law school by working in the library, which paid my tuition for 3 years. So that was something. It was an opportunity back then to see a president-elect come through right down the street by Severance Hall. We were on Cornell, on Adelbert Road back then, and we walked down to the end of the street by Severance and watched John F. Kennedy come by the whole law school. It was quite an action to see. But why am I here? Who am I? I'm here because in this perfect time of perfect employment opportunities and everything else, my American dream was shattered, my wife and I, because our son, fast forward, who had graduated from Orange High School here in Cleveland, while he was a freshman at Ohio State, at Indiana University, suddenly developed a depressing, shall we say, seizure. We got the call, and the rest was for the last number of decades where he's had mental illness. As we speak today, he is presently confined at Cleveland Metro, doing okay and living most of the time in a group home. So what's my background? Back then, 35 years ago, it was the dark ages with mental health. Absolutely the dark ages. The stories you heard from Ms. Washington before are unbelievable back then. As a young lawyer, I was asked by the probate judge here in Cuyahoga County to appear at a guardianship hearing at the old psychiatric hospital that has since been torn down. This was just when they passed the law under the United States Congress and President Kennedy to have all these hospitals admissions, let these people go out into the society that we live in, and the community will take care of them. Unfortunately, that happened, and the community for the next number of decades never took care of them. So I got involved with the mental health system at that time. And I was there at the beginning when an organization began here in Greater Cleveland which is now called NAMI, N-A-M-I, NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. It has in it a number of support groups and has umbrella organizations all over the United States and indeed Europe and Asia. NAMI Greater Cleveland is very active here and was named the best chapter in the United States 3 years ago. As a matter of fact, before I forget, I have up front here material dealing with the NAMI and the board that I also sit on that I want to mention to you today. The state of Ohio adopted legislation about 1986 that set forth mandatory boards throughout the state of Ohio called mental health boards. And I came on that board in the year 2000 under the appointment of the then Governor Robert Taft. I was since reappointed by Governor Strickland and Governor Kasich, and now by the county council. I'm now a county appointment. I served on the Adams Board, and what does Adams Board stand for? Adams Board stands for the Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services Board of Cuyahoga County. We are the funders. We fund through your federal income tax, through your state taxes, and through your local county taxes. A list of about 90 different organizations in this county, and the other Adams boards throughout the state of Ohio do the same funding. We, by per capita and by population, are the largest in the state. And we fund so many organizations and hospitals that receive our benefits. And as a result of my involvement, I had the opportunity to serve as president of the board, chairperson for 2 years, and it was quite an opportunity to meet throughout the state people who utilize the services of these boards. I want you to also be cognizant of the fact that just mental illness and opiate addiction is not something that you face today. What we see facing so many law students, engineering students, dental students, medical students, I could go on, is your student debt. The student debt we have gotten to see on the boards because so many of the students have become depressed, and depression has set in. You heard what I said, what it was to go to law school 1,000 years ago. Once it was behind me, it was over, other than CLE. And once I was admitted to the bar, it was over. But student debt has caused an economic and mental breakdown throughout our legal, medical, dental, engineering, podiatric community. And we see it coming into our emergency rooms, into our calls for help. And this is something that as we see has got to be faced, because that debt situation has to be serviced. And to service debt that you as students have is sometimes unattainable and brings you into focus with the problems of mental health, gambling addiction, and the other types of addiction services. As we speak, I've also had the opportunity to work on various forms of planning. Where does the community need help? One area I wasn't aware of, maybe it was because of my gender, I didn't know, but about 3 years ago, a woman came to our board to ask for $50,000. What did she need it for? She was the executive director of the Greater Cleveland Rape Crisis Center. Well, this was during my term as president. And we definitely felt that after we listened to her application and request for funding, that counseling was necessary with certified counselors. Unfortunately, back then, the Rape Crisis Center didn't have certified mental health counselors. They went out and got them, and we now fund the Rape Crisis Center. So there is always a learning curve on our board for necessary services that are provided. When you come up, and I hope some of you will, there's all kinds of pens up here that, that one has what I think would be something you might want to have. It's the crisis hotline to the Adams Board. It may not be for you, but somebody you know has mental illness. 25% of the population has some form of mental illness, addiction problem, gambling problem, or opiate problem. And sometimes you need help. And where do you go for it? I've got all kinds of materials. I'll be happy to answer your questions. All I can say is it's a pleasure to see you this afternoon. I thought it was morning. And I look forward to answering any questions that you might have.
Does anyone have any initially? I know this is kind of a tough topic. Yeah, go for it.
On the student debt as a source of, or a stress for depression, how do you handle the individual's perspective on that?
Okay. We don't handle that, but what we do is we recommend that the individual who comes, who has a crisis over this, and he needs help, we try to get the university involved with their debt counseling service that they have. We go to them first. After the debt counseling service of the university, we then try to get involved whether to see economically where the person stands as far as employment, as far as their future in their given profession. If they need to talk to somebody about a method of scaling back payments, we refer them to, again, through an agency, not individually, but we send them to an agency that can discuss their way of getting into solving that problem. And the list of the agencies that we fund, and that is in one of these brochures here. And there's about 90 agencies and hospitals that we do fund and are constantly applying for funding from our board.
Can I add to that? Most law firms do have programs set up with different financial institutions to help students, or actually people who just graduated, refinance their student loans. We also have counselors, like financial planners and financial counselors that you can meet with, whether it's to, invest your 401k or, trying to renegotiate your debt, whether it's credit card debt. Like I said, there's refinancing for student loans. So again, firms and other organizations as well are trying to seek out the concerns and issues that our employees are having and put them in contact with resources that are available to help them.
And for the overflow room, I'm sure you could tell from the answer that was around student debt and how is that, being handled, sort of thing. So thanks, great question. Yeah. Anyone else? I saw a couple other hands over there.
May I talk about employment?
Sure. Yeah.
Because of my involvement with the Adams Board and NAMI, one of the nice things I got to see was the number of available opportunities to practice law with nonprofits, hospitals, and agencies throughout the state, indeed the country. I know this has never been really, at least from what I've seen, a priority in the way of applications for law students for jobs. But I tell you, out there are numerous areas for expertise in the profession dealing with the agencies that serve this particular community. And if you think it's not glamorous, it can be, and it could be very rewarding. And what's nice about it is that there are a lot of perks associated with employment. One of the attorneys who was the attorney for our former mental health board today is the chief counsel to the Cleveland Metropolitan Park System and makes I might say, a very good living. So I'm just telling you, this is an area where you can impact humanity, you can impact your career, and your economic well-being.
Kind of pivoting a little bit, but I've calmed down and remembered a couple of things that I wanted to mention to you all, because that's my life. Sometimes I get excited and talk really fast and then sit down and like, oh wait, there's something else. One of the things also that I think it's really important to mention while we're here is that, so as a practitioner of law, and this is something that I deal with in my own practice, I'm an immigration attorney, so like right now it's really lots of heavy stuff. And so I think a lot of what we've been discussing thus far is people who have, you know, mental health issues or mental illnesses. And you're not left out of this conversation if you don't have anxiety or if you don't have depression or bipolar disorder or a mental illness. One of the things that is so important and why the legal community is shifting a lot of focus to these issues is because you're going to be dealing with a lot of really heavy stuff. And knowing how to handle that and knowing what resources are there is so important because, like, when we're talking about, you know, like, not being able to get out of bed or, you know, being super anxious or upset or, like, taking on some of this mental burden, like, that's our experiences, but it's not always noticeable. Like, there are plenty of people who have no idea that I have anxiety just because it's frankly none of their business unless I choose to share it with them. And they wouldn't know because I'm really good at my job and I really care about my clients and I really care about my boss. And so even if it's not something that is like a problem for you at the moment or isn't something that you're currently battling with, it's always good to check in because there's just so much going on all the time. And, you know, there are doctors that I know, they're like, oh my God, you're a lawyer. And I'm like, oh my God, you're a doctor. Like, we freak out, but it's like, we're one of the few careers that literally handles other people's lives for a living. That's a lot of pressure. And it really takes a minute for that to set in. So if you're thinking like, well, I'm here, but like, I don't have this and I don't have that, but I'm really stressed out about this case, this is also a conversation for you because it gets really heavy and sometimes you need to be reminded that you're allowed to set it down. And sometimes it requires tools to do so. Also, one more thing for minority students in the room or in the other room, you also have an uphill battle because you are going to have far more presumptions, probably culturally or familially, at least if your family's like mine, that one, you don't deal with that, and two, the fact that you made it to law school is already impressive, so you can do no wrong. So those are things to keep in mind because it kind of amps that pressure up, and unfortunately, statistically, minority students already are kind of set back in law school just by resources and don't always get that same level of support or feel that they have that same level of support, even if it is provided for you. So just a couple things to keep in mind.
I think those are great points, and probably good to think if you're sitting here thinking, you know, I'm kind of trucking along and feeling pretty good about law school so far, but it is really good to know about all of these resources, be aware of some of these issues that come up now, so that if and when you start your, you know, first job, wherever it is, and you start to feel different issues arise, or you start to feel different things that, you know, you've already kind of had this discussion with us today, to be aware of it, I think is really important.
There's something else I want to add kind of to that is after I got treatment and I got kind of my life together and I started seeing, you know, everything through like a neurotypical lens, a lot of my friends and some of my family said to me like, oh yeah, I knew I could kind of see something was going on, but I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to like upset you or I didn't want to like risk our friendship. And I sat there and I said, I wish you had said something because sometimes you don't know what's going on in your own head. Like sometimes you don't even realize how weird you're acting or how bad you feel or whatever. The flip side of that is that if you are supporting someone who has a mental illness, like if you're in law school and you're friends with somebody or you're married to somebody who's also in the profession, you can also reach out to OLAP as a caregiver. If you don't know how to deal with something, if you see one of your classmates or something acting a certain way or worrying you, you're not tattling on them. OLAP can't reveal what you've told them unless that person is in like serious physical, like I'm gonna kill myself or somebody else danger. They're not gonna go find this person and tell them like, oh, you know, Sarah came to me and told me that you're acting crazy. But it's important for you to take care of yourselves too. You know, my partner who I live with is incredibly supportive. He checks in with me. He will tell me if I'm acting a little funny. He'll make sure, like, if he, not that he accuses me of not taking my medication, but like if he thinks maybe I need to adjust a medication, like he'll remind me of it. But it's important for him to take care of himself too. You know, if you're supporting somebody with mental illness or something going on in their life, you might need some therapy just to talk around it. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It just means you need to support yourselves too. So that's another thing I wanted to point out, that OLAP can be there for you too.
And maybe a good, just sort of round this whole discussion out is if you are, if we have some students today, let's say, sitting here thinking maybe something applies today, whether it's just an anecdote or a resource or whatever it may be, what is a good maybe first step? And whether it's, Heather, maybe you could talk about, as a first-year associate or whatever, what that first step that you go from, I'm not quite sure that something's off, but something feels off.
So, yeah, I mean, I would say, in our firm, we have different resources. You can talk to the attorneys who are supervising your work. We have for our first and second year attorneys, we have like a smaller practice group. So there's only 7 of them in the practice group. So that way they have a practice group leader who knows them a little bit more rather than being in a 40-person practice group. So you can talk to your practice group leader. People obviously talk to me, our human resources. We have an employee benefits person. So, we try to provide a lot of various resources so that people can find the resource that they feel most comfortable with. Again, through Cigna, which is our healthcare program, we have, life assistance program through that. OLAP, which is the Ohio Life Assistance?
Ohio Lawyers Assistance
Assistance Program. Every state has a Lawyers Assistance Program that helps with issues like this. I'll say I've reached out to OLAP on just kind of hey, this is something that's going on with one of my attorneys. What's the best way to deal with it? Because again, I'm a lawyer by training, and so I kind of understand and see, the pressures that lawyers go through in their practices. But I want to make sure that I'm doing more help than harm. And so, I've reached out to a lot of the resources just to help, either my peers or the attorneys that I'm working with. So I think the key is to know that there's resources there and that it doesn't impact negatively your career at all. In fact, one of the attorneys who I've been working with most recently was going through a really tough time. We've talked about, talking to the supervising attorneys, and some of them he felt comfortable talking to and some he didn't. And if anything, I think it's helped his career in being open and being honest about what he was going through. Because, as Karen was saying, it's not so much that you are having issues, but recognizing that you have it and figuring out how to, manage it, as best as possible in a way that, is supportive for you and for, the firm and our clients. So, yeah.
If I may, I'd like to mention something that, again, came to our attention on our board. And this was the Women's Recovery Center, which is located at 69th and Store. This is not a great neighborhood. I repeat, this is not a great neighborhood. But how many neighborhoods will accept somebody who's been involved in human trafficking, opiate addiction, and let them have a place to sleep? So they came to our board to fund a place for women who have been involved in human trafficking and needed mental health services and recovery services. We went for this, and it opened up a little over a year ago in this area, and our board went out to see the final place. This is something that was a learning experience for me. When a person is depressed or having a mental illness, seizure of some kind, or an opiate addiction, or some sort of human trafficking problem, I learned that the ladies' room is important. I didn't realize that. Our board learned that. By having women involved in the creation of this particular recovery section, it was decorated, because it's for women, that was friendly to a woman who gets urinalysis treatment by using bathroom facilities. And I learned that this is important in the facility for the woman who comes in and wants to feel comfortable. We've also provided for homes for human trafficking victims who are walking the streets due to no fault of their own and want to come off the streets but are afraid to. So what we've done is we've partnered with foreclosed homes through certain savings and loans, and we have these homes that have been revamped with our funding, and women can, by police seeing them on the streets, can say, hey, we got a place for you to stay tonight, and it's nice. We don't care if you get counseling. And the women like that. So they go there for 1 to 3 to 4 nights, and if they want services, they get them. We've provided for that, and that's important. And I think resources, like the ladies have said here before, resources is what you should be aware of. I've got them all listed, the ones that we provide. There are tons more. I'm just about begging you to take advantage of what's up here, and especially in NAMI, what is available for support groups for your in the colleges and in reviewing these opportunities for employment.
Absolutely, all great things to keep in mind. And I would say too, just to kind of, in conclusion, we here in the career, if it's your career advisor, if it's your academic advisor, you can always talk to someone that you trust in the law school, and we can help you either by chatting with you ourselves or directing you to University Counseling Services. I see Michael McCarthy there in the back, a little wave there. He's always a good resource. So if that's the first step, if you're sitting here thinking, again, something kind of just maybe stood out to you, or yeah, please.
So to add on to that,
yeah.
My name's Ryan Dalton, and myself, along with a couple of our classmates, we've created a new student organization here on the law school called Open Ground, where we're trying to openly discuss mental health issues, whether it's for yourself, someone you know who's interested. We'll be having our first meeting about this tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Wonderful.
So our message is out in the newsletter that was posted today, so take a look at the actual written assignment.
Wow.
Fantastic.
For stuff like this,
Yeah.
a lot of it's programs that are available for once you're out as a practicing attorney, but we are trying to create a way to reduce the stigma, to be more vocal about mental health while you're here in school, to make it easier to accept these programs later on in life.
It's wonderful. Thank you for mentioning that and for starting that as well. Is there something else? Any other questions out there? Hands raised. Did you have something that you wanted to add? Or are you okay?
Oh, I was just going to say there's also, we are part of the Mental Health and Wellness Committee at the CMBA. And yeah, it's the Cleveland Bar Association, so you think automatically, oh, it's just for lawyers. But if you were a law student and you're having trouble, we're getting our website launched soon. And we have so many members with so many resources. You can reach out to anybody on the committee for any kind of assistance that you might need, even if you're just a law student.
Well, and there's this misconception that you can't show weakness as a law student or as an attorney, or that if you tell somebody, then your grades are going to suffer, or you're not going to get a letter of rec, or whatever. Like, you want to find somebody you trust, but, like, the thing is, like, the law school wants you to succeed, and you succeeding demands that you be healthy and take care of yourself. And, like, I don't know exactly what the setup is at Case, but, like, I was mentoring, I had mentors who were students, and then I had a academic advisor who was specifically my bar advisor, and that woman, like, is sent from God himself, because, like, she is amazing. And so, like, if you find those people, and it doesn't have to be everybody, you don't have to, like, scream your story from the tower tops, but, like, if you find that network for you, those couple mentors, maybe people that aren't in your direct classes, if that doesn't make you comfortable, or like a professor that you relate to that maybe you just like see every once in a while, like, find people to check in with, because it doesn't have to be lonely, and it doesn't have to be scary, and you don't have to like everybody thinks you have to be invincible in law school. Nobody's invincible in law school. Nobody actually knows what they're doing. If you think you do, like, you'll find out soon enough. So, like, find your people and rely on them, because that's what they're there for.
Great. Thank you so much. And I know we're just about out of time here, but do you have a few minutes to just hang out if people want to come down? Okay, well, thank you all so much for being here, and thank you all.